Your comfort zone is keeping you in a prison. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Your comfort zone is keeping you in a prison. And a lot of times we don't even realize that we're in this prison. And in this video, I want to talk to you about how to get out of it so that you can finally start doing the things that you've always wanted to do, reduce fear, and finally become that better, happier, higher version of yourself, okay? Listen, our comfort zone, that's the space that we're used to, right? So this is the distractions that we're used to, that's the environment that we're used to, that's the people that we're used to, that's the routines that we're used to, right? And what I need you guys to understand is there's no growth there, okay? It's something that you do every day. And because you're so used to your comfort zone and your current routine, you just go with the flow. A lot of times we don't even realize how long we've been stuck in that comfort zone and in that routine. In your comfort zone, there's no fear, there's no anxiety. And if you do have anxiety, you're used to it because you've been living with that anxiety for who knows how long, right? You're used to your routine, your habits. It's just your safe space. And a lot of times we have goals, right? I don't think there's anyone in this world that doesn't have a goal. There's something that you want to achieve, whether it's lose weight or start a business. Maybe you want to become a content creator. Maybe you want to switch careers. Maybe you want to have kids. Like there's a goal that you have, right? And you may not actively be working towards that goal because working towards that goal is going to require you to step out of your comfort zone. And for a lot of us, we live in fear. So on this side of the internet, fear stands for fuck everything and run. And you've been running from these goals and these ideas for a very long time. Some of you guys years, some of you guys decades. And at some point, in order for you to reach your goals, whatever it is, it's going to require you to step out of that comfort zone. And every single day that you don't is another day that you could have been working closer towards your goals, reaching them, but you're choosing not to, because getting out of that comfort zone is scary for you, okay? So let me give you an example. I have so many examples of this. And let me just say this, every single time that I have stepped out of my comfort zone, I have been 1000% happy after the fact, right? Of course, it was scary. You kind of start, stop, right? You have that little cycle going on. But once you do step out of it and you commit to being outside of that comfort zone and you actually reach the goal that you had, you look back and you're so happy that you did it. But it's the getting out of it part that's so hard, right? And for me, I've stepped out of my comfort zone a lot these past 5 years. If you're new to my channel, you don't know my story, I quit my 9 to 5 during COVID. Okay, I had been there for 6 years. I was miserable. I hated it. And I was overworked and underpaid like most people. And during COVID, things were just different, right? They had a lot of assistance going on for people. So it was the perfect time for me to quit. Now, of course, I was scared. I didn't know any entrepreneurs during that time. I do now, but then I didn't know any entrepreneurs, okay? Everyone that I knew in my close circle had jobs that they hated, okay? So me being in a toxic work environment was a comfort zone of mine because everyone I knew, from family and friends, we all hated our jobs. Even the coworkers that I was around every single day, they hated their job too. So it was so normal in my reality to be around people who hated their job, who felt overworked and underpaid. So me stepping out of that into this realm of entrepreneurship was scary and completely outside of my comfort zone. Like I said, I didn't know any entrepreneurs at that time, whether they were online or had physical locations. I knew none. Okay, I had only heard stories of people wanting to start a business, but maybe their business failed, or maybe, just a whole bunch of horror stories, but I didn't know anything personally, right? And so getting out of that comfort zone, leaving the 9 to 5 world and stepping into entrepreneurship was scary, you guys. But I had been debating back and forth for years while I was working that job because I hated that job the whole time I was there. So I would start, stop, right? I tried to be a realtor, so I started a business, but then I stopped because it got too hard, right? I was starting to get out of that comfort zone. So I would wind up right back in my comfort zone, which was my 9 to 5, focusing on that and just trying to keep the peace so I could continue to live like everybody else. I started a lingerie company. So here I am trying to step out of that comfort zone by starting this lingerie company. And then when things got too hard, when I wasn't seeing any sales in the time frame that I felt entitled to, I would step right back into the realm of my 9 to 5 and focusing on that for a couple of months and just trying to keep the peace keep the peace again. So you understand what I'm saying? When you start, stop, right? I would have all these ideas and business endeavors that I wanted to try and start, but once things got too hard or I felt a little too uncomfortable, I would come right back to what I knew, which was just focusing on this 9 to 5 that I absolutely hated. Okay. But you get to a point, I think everyone reaches this point at different parts of their life, but you do get to a point where you get so fed up with the current life that you're living that it kind of forces you out. And sometimes I think God forces you out. I am a firm believer that when it's your time to jump in whatever jumping it is that you're trying to do, God forces your hand and you have no choice but to jump. And so for me, I had gotten written up a couple of times at the job. I don't even know how I still had this job. To be completely honest with you, I have been written up several times. I have been warned several times. I don't even know how I made it 6 years. But anyways, I was getting more into the idea of content creation, and I had made a new Instagram and I was starting to post pictures on there. I had entertained the idea of a YouTube channel. So I was really stepping out of my comfort zone just by posting, because everyone that I knew were not content creators. Everyone I knew, they were posting stuff on Instagram about like their family, their kids, their weddings and things like that. So here I am taking pictures and trying to get outside of my comfort zone again. And during that time, I started getting my nails done, I started doing my makeup, and I really was trying to rev up my content creation while still having this 9 to 5. And they had an issue with my nails. They had an issue with my nails. And mind you, I used to get my nails done, not as often as I was at this point, but I would get my nails done. But they had an issue with the length of them, okay? So it was a whole bunch of buildup going on, and they were telling me that I needed to cut my nails because they were too long for the job. And now these were not extra long nails, okay? They were like medium length. They're like the length I have now, okay? But they had an issue with them, and I had just got them done. Mind you, money was tight. I was paycheck to paycheck, so I had just got these nails, and I'm like, I'll be damned if I have them go take them off. I haven't even gotten my 2 weeks worth of this full set. No, I'm not cutting my nails, right? And again, this had been years and years and years of dealing with drama and getting written up and, you know, animosity. I was getting to the point being at this job where I really was not caring anymore. I was starting to see the vision of my future world, which was content creation. I was so focused on that I truly stopped caring about what they had to say, right? So they were giving me 7 days to cut my nails so I could be in compliance with work rules. Okay, so I was like, okay. I didn't cut my nails. I did not cut my nails. I had got to the point, you guys, where I was like, screw them. I am not cutting my nails. So the 7th day came, they pulled me into the office. This lady had she had a ruler, and she wanted to take measurements of how long my nails were from my fingertip to the end of the nail. And I was not in compliance, which I already knew, but I'm not cutting my nails. I don't know what to tell you. So she was like, okay, well, you didn't cut them. We can cut them right now. I have nail clippers if you want to cut them right now and we can proceed, or I can go ahead and write you up. I was like, well, I guess you're just going to have to go ahead and write me up because I was not cutting my nails. Listen, you can call it petty, call it what you want, but I was really not caring about this job anymore. I was on year 6 of dealing with toxicity. You get to a point, like I said, where you do not care and God is going to force you out one way or another. And my Instagram was starting to grow. And when I say grow, I think I was at like 300 followers at that point. But for me, that was growth because I started with like 20 and everyone I had were people that I knew. Okay, so my Instagram is starting to grow. I'm, getting more consistent with taking my pictures. I'm having fun. I'm playing around with different angles. Like I'm really starting to enjoy this content creation journey. So screw them, right? So she wrote me up. And that night I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I think it's time to quit. COVID was going on. I had actually caught COVID. And during that time, it was during the very beginning phase of COVID. And jobs were giving you 2 weeks off with paid time off. And when I got that paid time off for those 2 weeks, which means I didn't have to use any of my PTO that I accrued, it was on the job's dime. And so during those 2 weeks, I really got to experience what it was like to be a full-time content creator. I was getting up, I had a schedule, a routine, I was taking pictures, I was making videos, and it felt so good to be doing that all day, right? So when it got to the write-up, I had already experienced 2 weeks of being a content creator while getting paid for my job. Yes, I had COVID, but my symptoms weren't even that bad. So I really got to see what it was like to work from home, being a content creator, and I fell in love with it, you guys. I fell in love with it. So here we are, maybe a month after the fact, and they're writing me up for my nails. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put in my 2 weeks, and I did. Now, I was terrified. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was terrified. I was shaking. I had just bought my house. I had bought my house like 6 months before I quit. So my savings account was gone, okay? I've had everything I had put into the down payment of this house. So it was a lot going on, but I had already tasted what it felt like to work from home for 2 weeks, recording content. I fell in love with it. I saw my platforms were slowly growing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna quit. I put in my 2 weeks notice. I was terrified. And for those 2 weeks that I had, I was crying. I was debating whether or not I should take the 2 weeks back and just stick it out and keep my nails short. Like I was going back and forth during those 2 weeks, you guys. I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I was completely outside of my comfort zone at this point, like all the way. But I stuck with it. I stuck with it. I endured that discomfort, and here we are, 5 years later. I am a full-time content creator. I am a six-figure earner. And this is exactly what I mean by you have to step out of your comfort zone, because if you do not, you will continue to be a prisoner of it. There is no growth in your comfort zone. And nowhere in this video did I tell you that it's not scary to step out. It is scary. But the reason why it's so scary is because you are literally stepping into a new version of yourself, one in which you are not familiar with. You are familiar with the current version of yourself, maybe the one that makes excuses, the one that starts and stops. That was my journey. I would start a business idea, stop, start one, stop, start, stop, right? I was comfortable with that. That's what I was used to. I would have these ideas, I would do it for a couple of weeks and then go right back to what I knew, which was being miserable at my 9 to 5. But when you fully commit to stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the thing, whatever it is that you have been fantasizing about, telling people about, dreaming about, you need to just stick it through. Everything that I have gone through during these 5 years, I've lost over 100 pounds. I'm no longer an alcoholic. There's so many things that I've done during being an entrepreneur that required me to step out of my comfort zone. But reflecting back, I'm so glad that I did. Because just imagine, let's say I took back my 2 week notice. Let's say I was like, you know what? Just kidding. I'm gonna cut my nails. Just joking, right? I wouldn't be here right now making this video on YouTube. I wouldn't even be doing this. I wouldn't even have an online coaching business teaching people how to make money online. I wouldn't even be doing that. I would still be miserable at that job, in my comfort zone, around people that I'm familiar with, right? But I'm not. So, this is your sign to step out of your comfort zone and do the thing, finally, okay? And if you have not already, make sure you join my Glow Up Academy. This is the space where you truly transform, where you become that higher version of yourself, where you stop doubting, where you stop second guessing, where you stop trying to talk yourself out of the thing, where you finally develop discipline, accountability, and consistency so you can finally reach your goals, whether it's losing weight, starting your business, building your platforms, whatever the goal is for you. My Glow Up Academy is the space where you truly transform. And I teach you how to reach your goals, okay? So if you are not already in there, I will see you in there. The link is down below in my description. If this video resonated with your soul and vibrated with your spirit, make sure you guys subscribe and leave a comment down below letting me know, what are you going to do today to step out of your comfort zone? Have you been going back and forth with an idea? Are you ready to commit to it? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say, and I will see y'all in my next YouTube video. Bye.